So the emphasis is basically that organizations operated differently even just 10 years ago than they are now. And that's because technology changes very rapidly. We have a concept called Moore's Law that processing power and our ability in technology doubles every 18 months. So that's a very powerful statement. And they think that it's actually reducing, that it doubles every year. And we know this because new technologies are coming out all the time, and businesses are saying, how can we leverage this to make more money or to get to our customers or reduce costs? So we're going to focus on things like globalization. How do we make this world smaller? How do we get to those clients that we couldn't get to before? And how do we deal with the fact that, well, people like that localized feeling or, too generic or standard feeling? We don't want that anymore. They also want jobs to stay local. They don't want outsourcing. What hopefully I'll talk to you in the outsourcing section. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that companies outsource things that they shouldn't outsource. So I'm going to give you some ideas of when is a good time and when is not a good time to outsource. And the IT executives need to balance this. They need to understand the cost versus the benefit of doing any of these things globally. We have something called E-enablement, which basically provides that we are enabling a certain aspect of our business, whether it's just selling a product in retail or providing customer service, to track a package, for, say, via UPS. Or if we go into the medical field, this is fairly new, being able to do diagnoses, which they wouldn't really do, but as an example, you log into a portal, I want to go get my treatment and diagnosis and lab results. That you're seeing a little bit more of. We do this with CVS or Walgreens, where you can actually get a whole history of your prescriptions, know what kind of interacts with each other, and maybe there's a flag that says, hey, you shouldn't be having this medication, and the systems help do that. I can order refills if I want right away, or stop any refills. Knowledge sharing and knowledge management is also a critical thing where we want to understand how individual people can share knowledge across organizations, departments, or with across industries to leverage what are other people doing. We see this with wikis. So you see Wikipedia, where people want to know something about a particular technology, they go to Wikipedia. Many people use Wikipedia first as a primary source of getting that first level of information. They may also use boards. If something is wrong with a PC or something's wrong with an operating system or a piece of software, they may just Google it and say, has anybody else gotten this problem before? How did you solve it? And so we see a lot of that going on. And so some of the key trends that you have are governance of IT, as we talked about. Governance of IT is we need to make sure that we can put all this stuff together. The role of IS shifts from application delivery to system integration and infrastructure development. And we do see the outsourcing continue. At the same time, we'll also talk about social media and mobile technologies as being two additional trends. And at the end of this book, you're going to actually see me add a couple of other things beyond like green IT. We're going to talk about virtualization. We're going to talk about big data. These are things that kind of came after the printing of the book, but I'm going to give you some videos and some other information that'll at least put those ideas in your head, especially from the data analytics perspective. So what does it mean to have IT performance? There's a quote in your book that says technology is configured into systems that help manage information to improve organizational performance. That's wonderful. That's great. But it's more than that. See, the thing with information technology is one of the most fundamental aspects of the IT department is the people who can adapt, improvise, who can respond to the various changes, both from a technical perspective as well as from an environmental perspective. If something isn't working as designed, your staff needs to understand what's wrong, and if they can't figure it out, they have to know how to get the right answer. You could have the best technology in the world, doesn't matter. Because if it's not operating at peak performance, if your people don't have it operating at peak performance, or if your partner, if you're outsourcing it, does not have it at peak performance, you're the one who gets blamed. Your customers don't care that you've outsourced it or you've hired the wrong people. Your customers want their product at the time of their choosing when they want. There's something that we'll talk about later called an OOD loop. You'll see that in one of the later chapters, but Colonel Boyd was actually said that in order to have a successful organization, a lot of people had thought it was, get the right technology, then figure out the process and put the people in place. And Colonel Boyd said it's actually the reverse. Technology is actually irrelevant. You can actually, if you have the best people, you can actually make do with any technology because they'll figure out a way to make it work and make it work well. And what he says is that it should be reversed. It should be people first, then develop the processes and implement the technology to fit those processes. We see in healthcare that that's a little bit dicey because some of the EMR systems, the electronic medical record systems that hospitals are implementing for meaningful use and the stimulus money, what's happening there is that some applications are changing the way hospitals do processes. And other implementations have taken the reverse. They're making sure that the application changes to the process. The application changes to the process. But either way, who's in charge? Who should be in charge of an electronic medical record implementation? Should it be the IT department, or should it be the clinical staff who's going to use it? And these are the areas where IT gets a little bit hazy. That line is a little bit blurry. So back in 1980, we saw the rise of the information individual. People who were involved in the information industry overtook what would have been the core, which was industry and agriculture. We went more to a service, and then obviously to a more information-based society. So the way IT is used depends on the environment surrounding the organization that uses it. Not every piece of technology will work in every organization. Okay, and every way it's implemented will not work in every organization. So there has to be a balance of the two. But at the same time, technological advances affect the way IT is used. So in other words, we've gone from the PCs and even mobile technologies, and those technological advances have changed the way we actually use IT, who does it, who maintains it, and who does it, who's handling it, or what companies do we use. So the question for you at the end of this module here is, can you think of ways that mobile technologies and social media have affected your business or industry? Okay, so go to the discussion board, and maybe you can post some information there that would basically say, you know, this is the way we're using it, and this is why we think it's different. Let's see the difference of opinions of how social media or mobile technologies are being used. And I'll guarantee if you're in different industries, it's going to be completely different, but you may learn something from what the other person's viewpoint is. Okay, so that's this module, and I'll see you for the 1.2 module.